Shorthanded, yet no problem. The Pacers get it done in Toronto. They needed that one, and they got it. They stay in six. They keep the good vibes rolling into the All-Star break. How'd they get it done? Why did everybody basically step up? What's next for the Pacers? We'll talk about it all today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Thursday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today we're talking about a win the Pacers didn't need, but really felt good for them. They played awful Monday. They had a winnable game going into the All-Star break, even shorthanded. They needed to get the vibes right, and they got it. They had low energy to start the game. Clearly, they needed something to get out of their funk. A win, and then 8 days off will do that. They take down the Raptors by 2, 127-125. And I have a lot of things to talk about from this game, but to sum it all up, almost, and I will just remove the almost, everybody stepped up and did something important in this game, which was vital for the shorthanded Pacers to win in Toronto. An emotional game. A weird one. Two teams coming off of ugly home losses Monday. Not home for the Pacers. Two teams coming off of ugly losses Monday to crummy teams. They wanted to bounce back, and the Pacers were the team that actually pulled it off. Let's set the scene for what the Pacers were up against, because the Raptors are not awesome right now. They got smoked by the Spurs on Monday, but the Pacers entered this game. No Myles Turner, illness. A lot of sickness running through the NBA right now. Pacers, one team dealing with it. No Myles Turner, who did play on Monday. No Bennedict Mathurin, also an illness. And he had that knee thing not too long ago. He was out. And then they also didn't have James Johnson. They didn't have Jarris Walker because they just wrapped up a G League road trip. They played the Ignite in Vegas twice. They didn't have Jalen Smith still because of his lower back spasms. And during the game, Aaron Nesmith went down during the third quarter, reaching for his right shin ankle area. The team called it a shin injury. Rick Carlisle told Dustin Dopirak up there, shout out to Dustin for the reporting, that Aaron Nesmith walked out of the arena after the game, which is good, but they got to do more imaging. To set that scene, though, no Nesmith, no Turner, no Ben Mathurin, no Jalen Smith. You could argue the Pacers were missing 4 of their top 7 guys in this game. Maybe top 8, maybe top 9. I don't know. But they were missing a huge part of their rotation. Now, critically, of course, they had number 1 and number 2, right? Tyrese Haliburton was available. Pascal Siakam was available. But that's a lot of talent to be missing against a completely healthy Raptors team who just had their 2A guys as inactives. So they were up against it. And so what do the Pacers need in a game like that? They're going to be playing weird lineups, right? The Pacers started Nembhard, Haliburton, Nesmith, Siakam, Jackson. That lineup had played a total of 0 minutes together this season ever, right? So that's already something new. They've all played together in some capacity, but Jackson starting was new with that group. They were going to have to play McDermott a lot, especially once Nesmith went down. And boy, we talked about Doug McDermott. They were going to need Ben Shepherd. And who else did they need for his first rotation minutes of his entire career? Oscar Tshiebwe. And there was a unique thing about the Raptors that allowed that to happen that we'll talk about when we get there. But just to set the scene of this Pacers win and why I think you could call it impressive or good, even though the Raptors stink, is because they don't stink. They're okay. Is because that is what they were faced with. Totally new lineups, a mid-game injury, relying on their two-ways for rotation minutes, relying on guys who never play together. They had Shepherd and McDermott playing, and they were both good. And they won. That is big time for the Pacers to hold on and get that one done. And they had a lot of moments in this game where it looked, it felt like a weird game flow to kind of set up this one for the Pacers, right? They continually were down. They did not lead in this game until the third quarter. And in the first half, 2 times, maybe even 3, they went down by like 8 to 10. They weren't playing well. They had low energy. Siakam in this new emotional situation back in Toronto. Great welcome back by Toronto. The welcome back video, the tribute video was fantastic. They had a whole section of people that they gave Siakam jerseys to, so that right off the court there was a bunch of them. That was sweet. They did a really good job with that. But, in the first half, he wasn't playing like the Siakam the Pacers need. 2 for 9 with 8 points in the first half, -8, right? So that started slow for them. And so in general, as the Raptors were surging ahead, the Pacers would do this. They would get down by like 8 or 10, and it would take a long time. The Raptors would just play better than them for about 7 minutes. And then the Pacers had this fury of excellent play where they'd come all the way back and get it close. They'd tie it. They'd get it within one, whatever. Where you'd see like, okay, if the Pacers could do that for a longer stretch, they can win this game. And then the Raptors would immediately answer with a big run, and it was gone. And that happened 3 times in this game. 4 times, now that I'm looking at the game chart, right? Right at the beginning, and then into the late first quarter, twice in the second quarter, and then the end of the second into the start of the second half. That happened, right? Where the Pacers could get it back, and then the Raptors took it away. But finally, in the third quarter, this is where the game changed to me. And this is where we will talk about a guy who didn't have to do anything outside of his role. One of the rare people on the Pacers who was totally natural in his role, but not totally natural in his motions, was Pascal Siakam. Back in Toronto, with all of that going on, lethargic, like he wanted this win. You heard him, if you watched the Bally Sports Indiana broadcast, answer that question from Jeremiah Johnson about how important this one was to him, right? Back in Toronto with all those fans, with the new team, they want that win. Every NBA player does. So to have such a crummy first half, that had to hurt for him, right? Not only were the shots not going in, but the team wasn't doing well with him out there. Scotty Barnes, his primary matchup at times, was crushing it with 14 and 7. RJ Barrett was doing well. Bruce Brown, who was in the trade, had an amazing first half. He had 12 points at the break. Like, not a shining first half for Siakam. And then the second half, he was unbelievable. He was so good in the second half. The Raptors kept getting like Gary Trent switched on to him, or other smaller forwards, and he destroyed them. Second half, Pascal Siakam, after a 2 for 9 first half. Second half, he was 6 for 8. He hit a 3. He got to the foul line for 5 attempts, 4 assists, 3 boards, and a steal. No turnovers. 15 points in the second half, plus 7. Humongous, massive turnaround in play from Pascal Siakam to get the Pacers this win. They needed him to be excellent, right? The Raptors are pretty big still. They traded away Anunoby, they traded away Siakam, but they still have a good, sizable front court. They still can kind of stink in their half-court offense, but their defense is good. They can run in transition. That's how they're going to beat teams, and that's what they were doing in the first half. They were getting stops. They were getting rebounds. They were running in transition. And in the second half, Pascal Siakam said, F this. I'm going to get stops. We're going to grab some boards, and we're going to hit you back. And that worked great. And he nailed shots. The one that will stick with me forever is, I think they were tied. The Pacers might have been up 1 late in the fourth. And Siakam was just hounded by Gary Trent, about 12 feet away off to the right, just outside the paint. And he hit this turnaround fadeaway bank shot that was just filthy. And I don't know how he found the space to get it up, besides just the answer being he's tall. But he found the space and he drilled it. To answer my own question, there was 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go, and it was a tied game. Brilliant shot from Siakam. That gave the Pacers the lead that they never relinquished, by the way. They won the game in part because of that shot. It was huge for momentum. It was huge for his game. And then the only other player who was playing in his normal role, I guess there were 2 more, but everybody was kind of doing different things, was Haliburton. And he didn't like totally stand out, but Haliburton drilled the threes, 5 for 9 from deep, 12 assists, 21 points, only 1 turnover. Maybe not the most Haliburton game since his injury. I still think 2 games ago, the Knicks game, he was, pretty springy as well. But to play this much, he played 34 minutes and 23 seconds. That is his 4th most this calendar year. The Portland game and then 2 games before the injury were the only ones more. To play that much, to be that effective, to be a +2 and a 2-point win. He was great. Siakam was great. And to put those two together, they got it done for the Pacers. The Pacers had the 2 best players in this game. You could say Scotty Barnes has been better than Pascal Siakam this season. That's fine. You could say Scotty Barnes is better than Siakam in this game. That's fine. But in general, the Pacers had 2 of the top 3 players at worst and should have had the best player in Haliburton. And on a night where they were shorthanded and stuck in the mud early in the game and couldn't take a lead until the second half, when it mattered, their stars were great. Haliburton made threes. He set up his teammates. He got the offense in motion against a team that they should beat. And Siakam finished crucial plays along the way. Big win for the Pacers. They are now 31 and 25, 6th place in the East entering the break. We'll talk about that in just a second. But we have to dive in to everybody on the Pacers stepping up on this shorthanded night. You're going to hear Oscar Tshiebwe analysis. McDermott was there. Shepard with the game winning. Stop so much to cover from Pacers Raptors. Before we get to any of that, though, did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right. No cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Gold Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, Locked On Warriors or Locked On Clippers, because they just played an awesome game that I just finished watching before recording this. And because Steph Curry is insane right now and has made 7+ threes in 4 straight games, dating back to his crazy night against the Pacers earlier this month. But this was not a Steph Curry or Clippers show. We're talking about the Pacers and their 127-125 win over the Raptors. Look, you may think this is I'm making too big of a deal of this, but entering the break, the Magic won tonight. The Heat beat the Bucks 2 nights ago, and then won last night. I forget who they played. Those two teams got to 30-25 with their wins. If the Pacers lost, they would have been 30-26, and they would have entered the break in 8th. Instead, they enter in 6th, and they keep up with those teams while hobbled and not playing particularly well. Maybe I'm overthinking that, but from a vibes and mentality perspective and from a reset, which should help every team, but in theory for a currently banged up and sick Pacers team, could be more beneficial. They don't have to travel for All-Star, if at all. I mean, some guys still will, but I think that's a big deal. So nice win for the Pacers. Stay in 6th, half game ahead of Miami and Orlando. Philly also lost. So 5 is still a relevant thing to discuss for the Pacers in the second half of the season. We'll get to that stuff after the All-Star break. We have to talk about a lot of guys having excellent games. In multiple cases, in fact, at least 3, the best game they've played for the Pacers this season, this entire season. We will start with the guy who saved the day. This is a section that I titled in my notes, shout out to everybody, right? I already did Haliburton for playing more, right? For actually creeping up to he's probably there now, reaching his normal workload and producing in it. And Siakam starting slow, but handling his emotion to get it done. We'll talk about everybody right now, though. And I would like to talk to the guy who sealed the deal, Ben Sheppard. Holy smokes, was Ben Sheppard vital in this game. Ben Sheppard closed the game. Nesmith was out. They didn't have Mathurin. They traded away Hield. They needed to play somebody on the wing, even with their starting 5. And I've said that I think the Pacers' best defensive 5 contains Ben Sheppard. They were slightly ahead late. They're closing with Ben Sheppard. The closing 5 was the starters with Ben Sheppard, and that group worked for a couple reasons. One being, of course, Haliburton and Siakam were great in the second half, but another part of it that brought together is Sheppard had his best game ever. And quite frankly, it isn't close. On the offensive end, he made shots. Hey, look, that's a good thing. Obviously, it's been funny tracking his whole career so far that, as he comes in as this guy that everybody thinks is going to be a shooter, and he hasn't shot it well at all from 3, 27.4%, but has been a wonderful defensive player. Tonight, he was both. The presence of a potential 3-and-D wing was huge. He had 8 points 3 times, had never hit double digits until tonight. 10 points for Ben Sheppard, 5 rebounds and a steal, +8 in 21 minutes for Ben Sheppard. And he hit 2 threes. They were both in the fourth quarter, and they were both enormous for the Pacers' momentum and play in that quarter. And he just got him up, man. He caught him, let him fly, no hesitation, despite his season being largely inaccurate. Those were massive shots for him. He made his free throws. He shot 50% from the field. They needed him to be that level on offense. 10 points, a career high, his first double-digit game. That alone is huge on a night where you don't have Mathurin and Nesmith gets hurt. So that's already good. He paired it with great defense. Plus 8 was a team high for the Pacers. So he defended well a lot. It wasn't just the possession I'm about to talk about. But Pascal Siakam not Pascal Siakam. Isaiah Jackson splits a pair of free throws with 10 seconds left, which means the Raptors have the ball down 2 now. They can go for the win. They can go for the tie. They can do lots of stuff. They inbound it. They get it to RJ Barrett. He gets into the lane, and Ben Shepherd is all over him. Bump with the chest. Bump with the chest. He gets out. RJ Barrett's turnaround is pretty quick and shifty, so he gets a tiny bit of space, but Shepherd jumps up well enough not to contest perfectly, but still get his hand in Barrett's face. Great defense. 8-footer contested. He missed it. Nembhard tips away the rebound to himself, and the Pacers win. Ben Shepherd was phenomenal. 10 points, one of his better defensive games, including clutching up on the defensive end for a stop. Awesome, awesome game. And it's funny because, you know, I joked about this on the show, I think already. I definitely joked about it in real life with other people. Like, I thought there'd be a real chance there'd be a discussion from me and from others who watch the Pacers a lot about who should be the 10th guy in the Pacers rotation. And I said, I bet they'll try McDermott, but I bet by March we'll be having the McDermott versus Ben Shepherd discussion. And then after 2 games, I said, hey, maybe think about Ben Shepherd. They closed with they put Ben Shepherd in the 4th against Charlotte, and they didn't play McDermott in the second half. Well, in this game, they needed both of them to play. So you could call this an audition. I'm not going to yet. We'll see what they're going to do. But hey, guess what? Doug McDermott, also great. Also stepping up when the Pacers needed him to. Finally getting shots to go, and what a time to do it. He wasn't totally accurate. He was 5 for 12 from the field, but he had 3 threes, and you could see his gravity more in this game as he gets more familiar with this team. The Raptors were at least a little bit afraid of him. McDermott was a +3 and a win. 13 points and a rebound and a turnover. But 13 points was huge. Hitting 3 threes was vital. Was a fraction of a second away from 4. And the 4-3 would have been a crazy shot, like 60 feet at the first quarter buzzer. And it was perfect the whole way. It was such a good shot that, you know, when he put it up, I thought, wow, that could go in before it even went in. But he was the first one to be like, it was too late. Nah, he was telling the bench it was too late, and it was. But he got to the basket for a shot. He got corner threes to fall. He wiggled free on the perimeter. His release is still quick. I don't know what kind of impact he can have. I don't even know that he'll as the season progresses, hold his spot over Shepherd forever, especially if Shepherd's also now making shots. But on a night when the Pacers needed help on the wing, both guys who they're hoping can step up as the season progresses did so. That one of them made shots, and one of them made shots and defended. McDermott's defense still had some not so great moments, but he did what he's supposed to do. He made threes. He was a threat on offense, and that was big for the Pacers. Good stuff from Doug McDermott. No one else is a wing. I thought it'd be easy to close out this segment by just saying a wing. So I will, and I want to talk about Aaron Nesmith because he got hurt in the last segment. So I'll just talk about Andrew Nembhard because he's wing-ish sometimes. He guards wing sometimes. And then we'll get to the bigs, certainly bigs, in the last segment as well as Nesmith. Andrew Nembhard, 5 for 8, 5 assists, 2 steals, 3 boards, 14 points +5. He hit 2 threes. They were both, like Shepherd's, critical in the third quarter to keep the Pacers surging and on a run. He's been much, 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 much better in the last couple weeks in terms of not turning it over as much and actually being accurate with his shot, right? That has been critical for the Pacers as well. Him starting made a ton of sense already, but now it absolutely makes sense. I don't know exactly when to start this is. He came back from injury in Phoenix, and then the next game he started. They played the Nuggets at home. Since that Nuggets game, this was prior to tonight, that was 12 games. He was averaging 11 points, 5 assists, only 1.2 turnovers per game on 51, 34, 90 splits. And then tonight he shot 62% from the field, 66% from deep, 5 assists, 1 turnover, 14 points. So all of those numbers are now better than what I just said. And he pairs that with, of course, fantastic defense, as he did again in this game. He was great. He fits in so well with this starting group. I think he'll continue to start as the season winds down. We'll see if they can get him more ball handling reps in any ways, but 5 assists is nice. He played great. They needed him to play great, and he got it done. McConnell, Nesmith, Sheboy, Toppin, Jackson, not off the hook. We have to talk about them. And Nesmith's injury, if it's something that's beyond this game, what that could mean for the Pacers, I don't know that. If you're going to get hurt, perfect time to do it if you're Aaron Nesmith with 8 days off coming up. We have so much more to discuss here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. But first, we have got to take one more break so I can talk to you about Hungry Root. Grocery shopping and meal planning for specific dietary needs or preferences can be challenging. And if this applies to someone in your life, including you, Hungry Root is the way to go. The days are officially getting longer. And while there may be more daylight right now, if you feel like there's not enough time in the day like me, Hungry Root can add value to your life. It can help you save money, reduce food waste, and save time. Hungry Root is your partner in healthy living. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality groceries and simple, healthy recipes delivered right to your door. You just take a fun, short quiz. Hungry Root will get to know your health goals, what you like to eat, what appliances you have, and they will recommend recipes and groceries based on your personal tastes. And each order is fully customizable. You can use their suggestions or not. Everything from Hungry Root follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Save hours planning, shopping, and cooking. Hungry Root delivers food you will love. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On Pacers listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockdown to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/lockdown. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. And we are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Check out Locked On Raptors for your second listen. Hear what Sean Woodley has to say about the other side of Pascal Siakam's return in this game and the Raptors losing again. Ooh. But hey, the Raptors might be happy to lose a competitive game where their young guys look good, and the Grizzlies won Wednesday night. Raptors, can they get to a bottom 5 record and keep their first rounder? I will not be the GM of the Raptors making that tough call because there are some crap teams in the NBA this year. Not everyone was talked about last segment. So we've got more people to talk about in the shout out to everybody note section. Isaiah Jackson started this game at center. This was the Pacers' third game without Jalen Smith or Myles Turner this season. In the first one, they had Obi Toppin play some reserve 5, and they had Jordan Nwora available to soak up some of Obi's minutes as the backup 4, and Jarris Walker played a little. And the second one, Pascal Siakam was on the team. That was against the Kings earlier this month. The first one was against the Clippers. So Siakam was the backup 5, and then Toppin could play some 4, and then Jarris Walker soaked up a few minutes in there. Well, in this one, they didn't have Nwora either because he's on the Raptors now. And they didn't have Walker because of his just recently ended G League assignment. So all of a sudden, they can play Siakam at the 5, and they can play Toppin at the 5, but they have no 4 options behind them. So they had to get creative with like McDermott at the 4 or Nesmith at the 4, but then who's playing 3? Well, there's Ben Chet, but you get the gist of why this was so tricky from a lineup perspective and why it was critical that Isaiah Jackson was good and didn't foul, right? This is a stupid thing that I've said on the show before, but I still believe he's still fouling at a similar rate to last season. But his fouls are better. It's not the dumb ones. It's not the moving screens. It's not the stupid reach-ins. He's fouling on like shots that he's stopping, and that's way more valuable. But he had to stay on the floor in this game because of what I just said. They needed to be able to play Toppin and Siakam at the 5 as in as few situations as possible, just because their rotation was going to be weird. And Jackson played 31 minutes and 33 seconds and still only had 4 fouls. He was great in that way, doing the thing they needed him to do the absolute most in this game. And he played very well in his minutes. 7 for 13 from the field, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, 15 points, plus 6, second highest on the Pacers to only Ben Shepherd. Yes, that is a thing that I just said. 31 and a half minutes for Isaiah Jackson is it's his highest minutes total this season. He had, I think, only one game with more than that last year. He had a game at 31-46. I'm going to look at his career game log in just a second. Yes, he had 31-46 last year. In their like 7th game of the season. I don't actually remember why he played so much in that game. I'm sure there was a reason. And then his rookie season, he had one game with more than that, where he played 32 minutes and 1 second. But it was the last game of the season when the Pacers were just letting him play. So this was in the mid-season moment, the most he's played, and the most he's played all season, and he was ready for it. He was awesome on both ends, and he was like powerful. Is what I had in my notes. He had a bunch of buckets in the first half where he'd catch it and there'd be guys around him, and he'd dribble and he'd kind of like lower his shoulder and shake around them and dunk right through them. It was very important that he finished plays, and he did. He made sure the ball went in. And how about his backup? His first rotation minutes in the NBA, not garbage time for Mr. Oscar Tshiebwe. Fans have been wanting to see him get meaningful minutes and not just soak up. I think that was his 7th game, I believe. I believe the first 6 were all blowouts. Let me double check while I'm talking. All of his appearances were in games decided by 14 or more, excuse me. So he's only played garbage time until tonight. 3 minutes in this game. The Pacers did not do well in those minutes, but Tshiebwe in 3 minutes made his only shot, grabbed 2 rebounds. That's okay. He fouled. The reason that this was possible and they could soak up a few minutes without Siakam or Toppin at the 5, which was significant because Siakam finished with 5 fouls. They needed to make sure they used him in the right situation. So these 3 minutes from Tshiebwe might have been bad for the scoreboard, but being able to close with Siakam was vital, is because Jakob Poeltl was in for the Raptors, right? I don't think the Pacers could have played Tshiebwe against Chris Boucher, and the Pacers didn't think so either. When Chris Boucher came in, they tried to get Tshiebwe out of the game. Kelly Olynyk got hurt in the first half. If Olynyk was at the 5 in the second half, I don't think they could have played Tshiebwe. But because specifically it was Jakob Poeltl, they were able to play their more ground-bound Tshiebwe, who can just battle on the inside, and he didn't mess up too much. They did bad in his minutes, but like he was important in a win. That is always my bar for two-way players. If they can help you in the rotation in 1 win a year, success, right? Brian Bowen started that game in Chicago years ago. Edmund Sumner helped on his 2-way. Like those are the big success ones, obviously. But Tshiebwe, there he got it. He checked his box. So Kendall Brown helped last year in Golden State for the Andrew Nembhard game, right? Big stuff from Tshiebwe, literally big stuff. 2 guys left who to talk about here. Well, one that played well and then 2 who didn't play amazing. Obi Toppin just made his shots. That was huge. 6 for 9 from the field. He hit his threes. He had 15 points, and he made it look so easy, which is always important. But he also had a powerful drive. He caught it in the left corner. He took 2 dribbles. He went through a guy. I'd like to see more of that from him. Leverage his now threatening 3 into some interesting drives. I watched a lot of footage of him with the Knicks before he played for the Pacers, and that was something that I always thought was interesting, is he could run guys off the line a little bit. And now that he's a better shooter, I would like to see him do more of that because it was effective for him in this game. McConnell, one of the few guys who didn't exceed expectations when needed. He was fine, 6.6 assists. And Aaron Nesmith did not exceed expectations either with 8 points on 3 for 10 shooting. He was missing some shots. He's still a great defender. McConnell's still important. Like 6 assists is great, and he played great defense. But those 2 guys were just like at maybe a little below expectation. Good enough. The Pacers won. Nesmith got hurt, though. That's the last thing I want to talk about here. Landed very weird. His right ankle shin area like twisted odd on the landing. He was in a lot of pain. He had to be carried off the floor. Again, noteworthy that he was able to walk out of the arena per Dustin Dopirak via Rick Carlisle, excuse me. And also important that the Pacers don't play till next Thursday now. So that's good. Never good when an injury happens, especially for a guy who was wearing stuff on his shin, on that exact shin already. So we'll see if anything comes of this, because the wing is hard to replace for every team, really, but especially for the Pacers, who no longer have Buddy Hield. You know, they have McDermott, they have Ben Mathurin, they have Ben Shepherd. We saw 2 of those 3 who were able to play tonight be important, but they can't really like play Nembhard at the 3 that much. We've already seen what the limitations of that can be, unless in the right matchups, maybe so. And they don't really have anyone else who can easily fill in at those spots. Maybe Jarris Walker, I guess, a little. So they're it's going to be tough for them to really fill an absence from him if he's out for a while. You know, they with no Bruce Brown or Buddy Hield on the team anymore, they'll be really reliant on McDermott in a situation like that, or Ben Shepherd again. So if he has any sort of meaningful long-term weeks absence, which I don't know that he does or does not, that is important for the Pacers to monitor and figure out what their solutions can be. This season, I mean, their net rating is 2 points better with Nesmith on. He's vital for their defense. He's a great shooter now. So you can't, I mean, maybe Shepherd can shoot and you get both-ish from him. He's not as effective, obviously. But, you know, I think maybe the current trade-off for the Pacers would be, if you think you need the defense more, you could turn to Shepherd. If you think you need the shooting more, you turn to McDermott, and then just try to cobble together a rotation. And this could just be a pointless discussion, but I still want to talk about it because he didn't close the game, and they got both good play from both of those guys. But if they need to fill Nesmith's minutes, I'll be curious how they would do it, but it'd probably be a combo of those guys. I will guess that if Nesmith misses games, McDermott will start at the 3, and they'll value the shooting more than the defense. But I don't know that that would be a permanent decision. Maybe they could get more creative than that. And Ben Shepherd has certainly earned his playing time. So we will see. Lots to cover from this team, but we finished the final game. It's now Thursday. If you're listening to this, the day it comes out, it's All-Star time. Events start for me on Thursday. Really, I have some stuff I'm going to go tour and look at. And then public stuff really has already started. There's stuff to look at and do everywhere. But events start Friday. Celebrity game, Rising Stars is Friday. Pacers have somebody playing every night. So there'll always be something for you to watch if you're interested in All-Star Weekend in Indy. Tomorrow, we will talk with Derek Schultz about the state of the Pacers and talk about Indy hosting All-Star. It's going to be cool. And then I'll be there at all the events. So next Monday's show, maybe I'll do one over the weekend. We'll see. I will be all about All-Star fun for the Pacers, their guys and events, the city's buzz. It'll be cool. And I'll be able to, if you're a YouTube watcher or you're going to become one, I will be able to post some footage to YouTube from All-Star events, which will be very cool as a part of the media experience. So lots coming there. That will be the next probably 2, maybe 3 shows here. Will be some Pacers and a lot of All-Star talk, both because it's here in Indy and because the Pacers are heavily involved as a result of that location in All-Star Weekend. So lots of fun stuff to come. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. You can find me on Twitter at Tony R. East and the show at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking Pacers, talking All-Star with Derek Schultz. Thank you all so much for the time. Have a wonderful day. We will see you soon.